Every now and then, there are games that didn't get the reception we believe it deserved. Maybe a game has been wronged by the public, or the other way around. Regardless, fact is we can't change what has happened. What we can do is give it another chance. We might not remove the preconceived notions about the game, but at least we can hopefully shed some light. This is my attempt for Mega Man's 2006 PSP remake, Mega Man Powered Up. It was released in March 2006 with the aim of releasing it for the then still new PlayStation Portable. It was a remake that added new features while staying faithful to the original's design. It was able to intertwine the classic design mechanics of the original NES title and modern game design improvements of the time. Amazingly, it also gave the option of playing in classic mode while retaining the remake's presentation. It was met with positive reception by game critics, and yet it didn't sell well. Sales were considered very poor in Japan. While the game did sell better in the US, it wasn't a game changer. For me, this is weird considering the game more or less got a seal of approval from game review sites. There's no concrete reason for the low sales, and honestly, there are a lot of things to consider. Was it the chibi and cutesy presentation? Was it released too early in the PSP's life? Was it the PSP exclusivity? Was there a lack of Mega Man fans on the platform? Or was it the overtly simple Japanese name that failed to show its remake nature? Sadly, we will never know, and frankly, it's a waste of time speculating. Now, to be clear, I like the game. It's not the best game in the franchise, but it is worth giving a shot. I think it serves its purpose really well, namely being a Mega Man game and a remake. Granted, the game is old by current standards, but it offers something to the table. Not to mention the added features are noteworthy. There were not only graphical improvements, but also additional gameplay that changed some of the mechanics and added more shelf life to the game. While this could turn off old fans, they aren't really major deviations to the formula. If all else fails, you can play the aforementioned classic mode or just play the NES title. That said, the game has expounded on a lot of things which, in my opinion, was able to modernize the classic title. The additional design was there to remedy the hardships of the classic. They serve both as an entry point and as a way to ease in people both old and new to the game. A good example is the intro stage, which gives you a proper starting point both in plot and in gameplay, unlike the classic that drops you in a stage of your choosing. It serves as some form of breathing room. It gives you time to get accustomed to things, to know what to expect even if it's the very basics. Considering you get to play as the Robot Masters and the other characters, its importance really starts to show. Even if it takes more than the intro stage to know the game really well, it is enough to get you by. Speaking of Robot Masters, there are two new ones. While this was probably done to be consistent with Mega Man tradition established since the second game, it isn't really that bad. The new bosses are able to tie in really well with the original Robot Masters. Their levels are able to provide what even the new stage designs are lacking in terms of level design and challenges. Furthermore, the weapons they provide aren't as simple as their counterparts and allows for more creativity during gameplay. Difficulty selection was also added, further helping the barrier to entry of the game. The ease of play does not only stop at the intro stage, but gets to continue as long as the player wants. A thing worth noting is the difficulty isn't shallow. It's not just bigger damage numbers, but instead actually affects enemy and boss behavior and the platforming challenges of each stage. Normal and hard bosses get to do super moves, and the helping platforms are gone. Certain obstacles move faster and stage enemies have more behaviors. If you think this is all too much for you, you have the chance to tone it down instead of just dealing with all of the noise aimed at you. Challenge mode is a great pace breaker from the usual formula. While you'll still be platforming, at least the main goals and the stakes are a bit higher than usual. It makes you take advantage of all the things a character is capable of. If you don't know what they can do, don't fret, as the challenge mode also serves as a learning tool for a character of your choosing. You get to know their strengths and weaknesses, further improving your gameplay. Construction mode is the game's Mario Maker. It lets you take a swing at level design to share to the world. You could create the easiest levels, the most structured sound, or in true Mario Maker fashion, create the most PTSD-inducing ones yet. While I admit the mode is trapped in the designs of a Mega Man game, it is well done that the player can unleash their creativity and somehow work around those limitations. While these features outright help the game in its entirety, it's still not a perfect title. As good as they are, they do bring some issues worth discussing. For starters, while the remake is a good experience as a whole, there's barely any incentive for repeated playthroughs with the other playable characters. The characters technically change the way some stages and boss fights play, but in the end, majority of it is still the same. Alternate paths exist for specific characters, but there is no reason aside a few optional unlockables to not go through the stages normally. Not all characters are properly playable. The biggest offender are the Robot Masters. Most Robot Masters play almost similarly to the Blue Bomber, making them safe picks in general. But those that are not are honestly beyond niche. Their gameplay has weird requirements that make them playable only at certain stages. At best, they can get around, and at worst, their gameplay is an outright hindrance. Special mention to the controversial Oil Man, who feels like he wasn't designed properly, as he can halt your gameplay progress completely. Construction mode is completely hindered at the start. During the course of the game, you can collect construction and enemy packs, which unlocks content for the level designer. This means that at the start, the player is lacking in options and content in construction mode. While the initial packs are arguably enough, the unlockable packs are just better in terms of content and variation. It immediately blows away the other content packs. Construction mode and some aspects of the game is also hindered by its reliance on the game's server, something that might not be even functional anymore considering more than a decade has already passed since the game's release. This means that not only do you miss out on user-created levels, you also miss out on other content that the game has released during its lifetime. The only option would be to acquire a save file from a third-party site. Last and certainly least is the score system that really serves no purpose besides, well, high scores. It doesn't really add that much to the game, and I honestly think it shouldn't be there to begin with. Just thought I'd point that out. Despite the issues that the features bring up, they don't severely detract from the game, or at least in my opinion, they don't. In the end, the game still succeeds in providing a modern Mega Man experience. It's no Mega Man 11, but it does offer enough to still be that familiar old-school platformer we've come to know and love. In hindsight, it's kind of weird to say that considering a lot of games in current times claim and live up to be a retro experience with modern features. Mega Man Powered Up was one of the few games at the time that was able to do that. While I'm baffled at the circumstances of this game, I'm morally disappointed that this could have been the way that paved for more Mega Man remakes at the time. If you can get this title for a reasonable price, I highly suggest you do so, especially if it's bundled with Mega Man Maverick Hunter X. Just don't play Oil Man, it's not worth the hassle. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.